Hello, everybody. My name is Gibran. This is our baby Siwakoa, and this is.
Irene Castruita.
We're going to start off with sharing a little bit about who we are and what we do. I'm a muralist by trade. I'm an artist, a writer, and a speaker. Irene.
I'm a little bit of different things. So I love to sing. I love to write poetry. I love to work in nature with Mother Earth, and I love to teach and work with people. Right now, specifically kids. I really enjoy working with children. We have this is our babyest, our smallest one, and then we have five other.
Yeah, we're a busy family. So, and that's talking about being a singer, a musician. That's how we met. It's been what, 13 years, 14 years
13
ago?
years.
13 years ago, we met in the community. Uh, Certain organizations and groups would invite Irene to sing and perform, and they at the same time would invite me to live paint. And that's how we met. She didn't know this, but I fell in love with her like this via her voice. As I was painting, I was like, "Who is singing?" And it was her. And again, she didn't know this, but I was like, "That's gonna be my wife." And here we are.
Yeah, I mean, you were definitely before. I mean, we knew each other for years before we connected as a couple, and he was definitely one of my favorite artists. And I was seeing a lot of the work he was doing around town. Not only was his art really beautiful, but he actually liked to organize himself. So he would organize art shows and different events and fundraisers, and so I got to see some of the work that he was doing outside of just creating art. The community aspect of it, which I really connected to, because that's really where my heart is in community. Uh,
Yeah, and we did a lot of it, right? For a couple of years at least, we did a lot of it, but we found that we were missing an ingredient. And personally, I couldn't figure it out. I just couldn't figure it out. I was like, you know what? We're just not aligning. We're you and I get glimpses of harmony. We get glimpses of true unconditional love, but suddenly we would fall out of alignment. And I just personally I couldn't get it, but it came to her, and what that was working with the land. And prior to us meeting, she was already doing some work, right? You were already planting, and you were learning about seeds and.
yeah, so I think for me, what definitely happened was once we had our first daughter, Galaxy, or once I became pregnant, this whole concept of like self care. Because first it was self care, like how do we self care?
Yeah.
We're doing so much work in the community.
Yeah.
We're spreading ourselves really thin. We want to be part of everything. Uh, but yet we weren't self-caring. So once I became pregnant, that really turned on the light bulb of like, oh, we need to care for ourselves. We're about to have a baby. We got to
Yeah.
care for her. So that for me began the journey of self-care and also nutrition and how we're eating and plants and vegetables and fruits. And that's really where the connection to Mother Earth really then started seeping in, was connecting with farmers and then.
And truth be told, I being an artist, I was resistant. I was like, I was being the typical arrogant artist of like, oh no, I'm an artist. Why would I touch the earth? It's dirty. Just my own nonsense. And as life would have it, Irene got commissioned, or she got hired to work to activate this space that was literally like a dump site, and she made it into a garden. She was hired to do a community garden, and there she needed help from the community, but also from me. And again, I didn't want to. Maybe I was afraid. I was afraid of what I would encounter. I don't know. But what did happen was one day I woke up with a lot of energy, and Irene said, "I know exactly what you can do with that energy." And I was like, "What? Tell me what to do." And she's like, she handed me a shovel. Where she got that shovel at that moment, I don't know. It's almost like she brought it like, "Here you go. Get this."
Behind my back.
Yeah. And she's like, dig me a hole, and it needs to be this certain size by this certain depth, so that way I can plant my tomatoes. And I was like, at first I was like, right, upset. But I went to go do it, right?
Well, and let me tell you something. I had like 40 tomato plants. So it wasn't like he's just planting, he's just digging a little hole. I had
That
him
was
dig
large.
like a 10 foot by 10 foot Mind you, because the space was a junkyard at one point, the soil wasn't ready.
Yeah.
It wasn't good soil, so we had to dig these huge holes to then amend it, add compost, add good soil, clean out the stuff that was there. So it was a big project.
It was a huge project, and thankfully the community, the surrounding communities, people were showing up and really helping her out a lot. And but back to my story, she wanted a very deep hole, and I don't know if she was just making me work extra. Were you?
I was like, if he's gonna dig, if he's offering, let me give him the biggest project I have that there's no way I can do while wearing my baby.
So I started digging and digging and digging, and it just became effortless. And all of a sudden, I started connecting with Mother Earth. And I could swear I could listen to her. And she started giving me advice. She started grounding me. She started sharing with me of things I can do to clear my head so that way I could be more in alignment, right? So I can truly be of service to others, because at that moment, I wasn't being of service to me. My arrogance was keeping me in a certain cycle of just going in circles. And I remember right after that, I dug the hole and I went running home. I told Irene about what happened. And she was like, yeah, like, that's what I've been telling you. Like, you need to connect. Now, you would think, right? Because after that, I created this beautiful body of work. We had an exhibition, and
in the garden, we did a garden exhibit.
And we did several things with this inspiration I got from Mother Earth. And I remember, like anything, slowly it withered away. And I went back to my cycle of just, nonstop creating. I wrote a novel, and I just, I went back to being a hermit and just studio. In my studio and creating. And missing out really from our family, and two, from what Mother Earth has to offer us. But with that, Irene, because she was already working a lot with the land, came food, the nutrition of food. So I imagine me, I kept going about my merry way of, okay, I got this, and I'm gonna run with it. And what I've learned is that, yeah, you do that, but you also gotta come back, and you gotta honor Mother, and you gotta, that's right, baby, and revere her, and love her, and nurture her, right? Because she's mirroring you back. She's giving you what you put in, right? But Irene taps into food, and I'll let you talk about the nutritious foods that you started creating.
So I grew up on the border of Tijuana and San Diego, so I grew up going to a lot of fruterias where they sell like a lot of fruits and vegetables. And as a kid, I was always really inspired and moved to eat fruits and vegetables because I really liked the colors. Not to mention that my grandma grew a bunch of delicious fruit, and I stayed with her every weekend, and she was always feeding me a lot of fruits and vegetables. So I just always enjoyed eating them. But once I became a mom, it just became apparent that, oh, I've been so busy doing all kinds of things in the community and my craft, but I haven't really mastered the craft of taking care of self. Now I'm about to have a baby, so what do I need to do? And I gathered information from my abuelita, that's how she would take care of me, is how I want to take care of my children. And
Abuelita's grandmother, by the way.
yes. And so then what happened is I started nurturing our firstborn Galaxy. Then we started nurturing ourselves, then our older kids. And then it became this thing of like, oh, well, if I'm nurturing myself and my family, then because my love is community and community organizing, I got to extend this to my community, because I'm discovering these things about myself, and I'm seeing how we weren't taking care of ourselves. Well, I see that reflection in so many people doing amazing work in the community, but there's no self-care, there's no nutrition. If you eat a certain way, then you can either give yourself energy or the opposite. You can make yourself more tired, more lethargic, sick. So then, but as I'm having children, I'm realizing like, oh, our little kids are so disconnected to food and nutrition. And so that became the drive to have this community garden and to work with kids and to really educate. Started growing our food, started sharing that with others, doing things as fundraisers for the garden, and then eventually started doing some catering. And it just grew, the business, I was doing it for about 7 to 8 years, just providing plant-based colorful, beautiful food using a lot of fresh ingredients. But it was to nurture the community, to nurture projects that we're doing, to nurture like projects that he's working on with other artists and creating food. Then it turned into like us traveling throughout the country and even out of the country, sharing food, creating food. Um, because there was a lot of projects and a lot of beautiful things happening in the community, but the component of nutrition was always missing. Normally it was like pizza, pizza, burgers, fries, chips,
Sandwiches, stuff like
sandwiches, but we weren't really getting like that soul fulfilling, nurturing, you know, soul food, I guess, where you really feel nurtured and taken care of and energized. So, so that's kind of what led me was really like my love for community then led me to open that up, and then eventually now we have I've birthed three beautiful girls with this man,
that.
and so the whole concept of nutrition keeps evolving. Now we're currently living in a farm, and our love for children has kind of led us here. Now we're starting a school, a creative art school, but then connecting nature and Mother Earth and colorful ingredients. And some of the people here on this property focus more on the farming. We're focusing more right now on the education component, as we
On
have
the
this
creativity.
on the creativity, because we
Yeah.
have the little baby. I can't be out farming like I would in the past because I got to tend to this little baby who's 2 months old. So there's things, we're flowing.
Yeah, so before we go, because we were talking about this is years ago we're talking about, and I like the steps. I like building up a good story. So
Yeah, I remember I went
so
too fast.
before we jump into the now, which is good. Um, Irene keeps going with her understanding of nutrition. I keep going with I'm traveling by myself. I'm traveling, still trying to figure out, okay, what am I not aligning with? And I realized that it's Earth. I'm not aligning with Mother Earth. And finally, I come with my tail between my legs, and I tell Irene, like, okay, I get it now. And we're not harmonizing sometimes, or as consistent as I would like to, because I'm not the one aligning. You're trying to feed me good food, and I'm being resistant. You're asking me to assist in the garden, I'm being resistant. Mother Earth is calling me forward, and I'm being resistant. So that's what happened. Then I started connecting with Mother Earth, and I feel that as an artist, that's very important as people. That's a very key component that a lot of us have skipped. Okay? There's certain steps to this life game, as I like to call it, and one of them is we keep skipping the reverence and the love and the nurturing of Mother Earth. Okay, so now, okay, I got my head together. I'm like, okay, let me tune in, and things started changing for us. And it's funny I say us because things started changing for me, because she was already there. It was things started changing for me, that I started leveling at her understanding, and here we are now. Now, if we fast forward now, we went through the steps, right? Now, this way of thinking, this understanding,
Yeah.
has brought us to a beautiful space where it's a farm, but it's not just a farm, as Irene was saying. Our role here is to be with our children and the other children that come to the farm, the other families' children, right? And create with them. But I'm also learning that, because I like to teach, I'm also learning that the art of not doing. So what do I mean by that? Is that I'll bring the tools and I'll get out of their way. And the kids by themselves, they weave their own reality, their own world. Instead of me being like what I think teaching should be. Well, today we're going to go from A to Z, and right? And that works for me. But for our children, what I'm learning is you let them be. You let them be. And they'll come and ask you when they need something from you, from the adults. Usually what they come and ask, they'll be like, hey, Irene, can we eat now? By then, Irene already cooked some delicious meal, an organic meal for them, and they all sit around the table, and man, it's all smiles. And then from there, they come back and they keep creating. And then they'll come to me and they'll be like, "Hey, Gibran," and I'm like, "Yes." Is all like, "Is there gonna be any prizes today?" And I like to give out prizes, right, for their behavior or things like that. I like to reward. I have a little reward system, and I'm like, "Have we been playing? Have you all been playing?" They're like, "Yes, yes." So then I'll give them little things, small little things. So it's been very like satisfying for me and very fulfilling for me to see how taking this role, aligning and being in harmony with each other has been offering us ways to be in harmony with our children and with others, and allowing them to be and exist how they want to be, and me personally not having to edit them and tell them how, no, that's not the way to do that. Instead, it's just allow them. And because they're seeing us, then they're learning by observation, right? They're seeing that we're making a video, or they're seeing that we're creating, we're seeing.
I'm sweaty. You need to take care of me.
They're seeing how I pamper my beautiful wife. A little bit of sweat there. So anyhow, that's where spirituality intersects. It intersects with how your spirit's behaving, how you're aligning with Mother Earth, how you're aligning with Divine Father, with Heavenly Father. All that has to, and the children, people are observing you by how you're acting. Anything else we want to share?
I think something that comes to mind as Gibran is speaking is how, as an artist, a lot of times we're caught up in our imagination and our creativity. So this in our head, right? So then a lot of times we're connected to the cosmos, to this outer world. And so what I've seen in him firsthand is that by him connecting to Mother Earth, it's grounding him, so it's getting all those ideas, all that information. Now he comes down to the earth, he grounds himself, and then he's able to execute with kind of both polarities, both energies.
Yeah, and clarity.
And so I'm really seeing the co-creation now is happening, with all realms, and when we co-create in all realms, then we align not only our mind, but our heart, our spirit, our body, all that aligns within ourselves, in our inner world and in our outer world, so it creates this beautiful,
She's totally seeing you. Yeah. She's always just checking you out like, what's Mom saying? Let's inspect tomorrow.
Or is she hungry?
Yeah, she's probably hungry, baby.
Talking about nurturing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go fill that position.
Yeah. Thank you. I wanted to bring my wife on board and share, because this is what we do. We're always together. We're always co-creating, and when somebody invites me to share, I always be like, "Hey, come with me," and because this is what we're doing.
Yeah, and you know what? And I'm gonna add to that, because as an artist, sometimes that lifestyle is to be out on the road, is to be traveling, is to be doing exhibits, is to be meeting with different people, is to be working on longer projects where you're away from home, and also changing that paradigm of like, well, if I'm gonna be gone, let's all be gone. If I'm gonna be traveling, let's all travel together and grow together as a family, but also share our gifts, and I know before, when he would travel without me, he'd be calling me, and I'm like, "What'd you eat today?" "Oh, pizza." "Oh, what'd you eat?" "Burger." "Oh, I haven't eaten today." And I'm like, okay, wait, this doesn't make sense. Like, you're also the father figure in our life. So if you're not taking care of yourself, or if these projects that you're working on day and night are not providing this particular type of nurturing, then how do we shift that?
Yeah.
How do we do that together? How do we work as a group to solve this? So it became something where, yeah, I'm nurturing him,
and it's time to nurture the baby.
Yes. Ta-da! Bye.
Thank you, lover. With that said, there's just so much to share. If you enjoy what we're sharing and what we're talking about, connect with us. You can find me at _Gibran, Gibran. And for Irene, you can find her on Instagram under at Irene Castruita. I'll let you go with this, okay? I've come to understand that sometimes life, our circumstances, gives us difficult moments in life, right? And sometimes we feel we get the message that we need to release certain people, certain places. I did that. And what I've come to find out is that I needed everybody in my life, including the ones that quote unquote hurt me, or the ones that did me wrong, or the ones that, weren't there for me, so on and so on. You get the picture. I went through this whole cleansing, releasing, only to find out my truth, which was everybody was needed. Everybody was helping me. Everybody was there to add to me in a certain way if I saw it through the lens of love. If I saw it through the lens of judgment, then that would just repeat. See what I'm saying? And you're seeing a pattern. You're seeing that I keep going to the pattern of the cycle. We just keep going in circles, 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 and not finding alignment. We might get glimpses like I did when some time ago. Everybody, everything's needed. Everything. For what? For our growth. For our growth, for our betterment, to be the best version of ourselves. Why? That's part of the game. That's part of the life game. Everything was needed. And thank you all for being where you're at. Because where you're at is making me grow. And where I'm at is hopefully making you grow if you see it through the lens of love. Thank you for listening. I love you all.